it wasn't the money, it wasn't the power. It was actually what I realized was that I enjoy working with people. Are they taking the role as a leader or are they taking a role as a manager? Effective, that is to do the right thing. Then you are exercising leadership. Managers light a fire under people. The leaders light a fire in people. Management is science. Leadership is art.
Hi, Egil.
This is a great place to be. Hi, how are you?
Thank you, Egil, for joining us. And let's just put on a little bit of music just to welcome you.
Brilliant. I never entered a meeting like this, so thank you for that.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. So I'm going to turn it off again, Egil. Egil, thank you for joining us again. These are my students, as I mentioned to you earlier. Egil, just give us a little bit of an introduction of like what you're doing, where you're from, and just a short introduction of who you are.
First of all, thank you very much. The honor is all mine. I'm really happy to be here. Leadership and coaching, that is definitely what it's on my agenda, both during my work days, but also becoming more and more my hobby as well.
Excellent.
I'm working with a Norwegian oil and gas company where I'm vice president, responsible for the projects. So I'm actually Norwegian, but I'm living in Denmark. And well, if it's been normal times, I would be commuting forth and back. But like you guys, as I can see, you are remote and on Zoom. So maybe I should ask you guys, how are you doing? Are you getting Zoom fatigue?
So you guys can come off mute and answer Egil if you like.
Definitely.
Is it hard?
It's not particularly hard, but it's just a lot more fun just sitting in a classroom and talking with the other students.
Yeah, the people that I'm working with got very much the same feeling. I think in many ways that it's a bigger sacrifice for you than it is for myself and the other oldies. You are sacrificing your youth and your young days. So all my thoughts are going to you guys. Just hang in there. Hang in there.
Yeah.
You will all turn out to be great in the end.
So you mentioned you're working in Norway, and can you give us a little bit of a background about your role there at BP Aker, I believe?
Yeah, it's Aker BP. Nearly every day I'm gonna need to pinch myself in the arm because I'm responsible for a suite of different kind of projects. So in total, it's 5 billion euros that I have in my portfolio. So it's like it's so huge, so much money that my mind cannot still comprehend the responsibility. And it's not only money side of it, it's as much the responsibility for all the people that are working within my area. So making sure that these people can get back home safely from a working day, but also making sure that people are having a great time, also making sure that their health are in order. When I was pretty new manager some 15 years ago, I was very ambitious and I took over an department of 20 engineers, and just after a couple of months, 3 of them had to leave because they got stressed. And I thought, well, yeah, just take a couple of days off and then you come back again. But they didn't. And then I realized that it's really important that we as managers, leaders, and coaches realize what kind of big responsibility that we carry. Yeah, it's huge. And I think just getting the opportunity to get in here talking about the impact that we as leaders and coaches can have on other people is it's great. And I think that is one of the reasons why I enjoy it as that much, is that I can influence and I can have a positive impact.
So what I'm curious about, Egil, is like what triggered for you, or what was the trigger for you to have this ambition to become a leader for yourself?
I think in the beginning I was asked to take this managerial position working offshore. I was 25, 26 and asked to get into a pretty big managerial position and be managers for people that could be my parents. And I was terrified, but so I used a lot of time thinking about why should I become a manager. I'm really happy that I used time to reflect on that, because it wasn't the money, it wasn't the power. It was actually what I realized was that I enjoy working with people. And I believe that I can do a pretty good job as a manager and leader. And that way, my work gives meaning to what I do. So I can every day get out of the bed and looking forward to a day that I'm juiced by the fact that, we as a team can do remarkable things. That is what inspires me. I know that a lot of people choose to become managers or leaders because they have been asked to do so without actually reflecting on, why should I become one? Mm-hmm. And then I have seen a lot of people being unhappy because they have not taken the right choice. They have decided to be leaders for the wrong reasons. Well, and I'm not saying that money and power is wrong. I'm just saying you're going to need to find out what's your drive.
Well, let me jump into that, because when I think back of my times when I was a student, I was also like full of ambition and thinking like, I'm going to get to this leadership position, and when I'm there, I'm going to have so much responsibility and I'm going to have so much more money. So that's great. So I really will have this ambition to become a leader, because it's going to give me everything I actually want. But then, as you say, maybe if those are the only reasons, then maybe those are the wrong reasons.
Well, when I turned 40, I became at a level where I thought, well, now I've done a lot of things. And I think one way or the other got into a kind of a crisis, because it's like, okay, so is this what it's all about? Now I got so much more joy out of my leadership work, because it's more about seeing that other people are growing more than I can see that I am stepping higher and higher up in the hierarchy. This concept of being a manager versus the concept of being a leader is something I use a lot of time on. And I was discussing this with a person in my organization where I'm the mentor for. And he was really frustrated because we have people in our organization that are at a very high level that you will expect them to act as leaders, but they are doing operational stuff and acts like they are managers.
Yeah.
And he was really frustrated about that. And I see that very often, that people are not aware of what kind of role they are taking. Are they taking the role as a leader, or are they taking a role as a manager?
So in our first lesson, actually, with this class, we spoke about the difference between a coach and a leader. We didn't touch upon the subject of the difference between a manager and a leader. So what's the difference, you think, between a manager and a leader?
First of all, both the leader and manager are equally important. You cannot have one without the other. And we as human beings can shift between, going into from leaders to managers. So if you think of the words effective and efficient, I think that is a good way to start to talk about the distinct differences there are between leadership and management. Being effective, that is to do the right thing. Then you are exercising leadership. Being efficient, that is to do the thing right. That is about management.
Yeah.
Being, leadership is about setting direction, but you cannot do anything if you don't know the direction. That's the reason why the leader is so important.
Okay.
When you know what to do and why you are doing it, then you can start working on how you can do it and how you can do it most efficiently. And that is the manager's responsibility. So it's about for the leader to set this strategy, and for the managers to operationalize it and make it efficient.
Okay.
That's how I see the biggest difference.
So the leader is more like, you say, like setting the direction, but it's also about painting the vision, like, hey, this is the direction we need to go to, and that's the destination that we want to end up in. And that's actually the job of the leader, to inspire maybe as well then.
Yeah, and I think that is a good way to see it, because, the leader, he doesn't need a title, but the manager very often do. I actually don't ever come into a person that you can say is a manager but don't have the title. But we have a number of leaders in this world that don't have a title. I think some of the greatest leaders in the history, they didn't even have a title, at least in the beginning. Nelson Mandela, just for one, and we got a lot of those great leaders that can lead without a title. And one of the reasons why he was frustrated, my mentee today, was that he was a manager, but he thought that he didn't have kind of the necessary power and control that he thought he was supposed to have.
Yeah, excellent. So you being in this position where you're having a mentee as well in the company you're working, I was wondering, like, what makes someone a coaching leader? Because it seems like, you're applying the coaching in your work as well. And what makes someone a coaching leader, you think?
First of all, what is coaching? To me, coaching is about evoking self-awareness with the coachee. And it's all about, both for coaching and for leadership, is about the people. Earlier days, I thought coaching and leadership and being a manager was about me. But I think the most important lessons that I have learned throughout my career is that it's not about me. It's about the people, the people that I'm working with. So it's about putting it outside my own responsibility and see how can my coachees and my direct reports develop and grow as human beings, as leaders, as managers, and how can they do that by means of self-awareness. As I see it, that's the most efficient way for people to develop themselves, is when they are aware of where they need to develop.
Great. No, I still have a few questions for you, but I just want to tell the students that I'm going to give them opportunity to jump in as well and ask you some questions, Egil, if that's fine with you.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So you guys, if you have a question for Egil, just be ready just to ask them in a minute. I also know that you have been using the GROW model. So what do you think is great about using the GROW model?
The GROW model is great because it's extremely simple, it's easy to learn, and you can use it all the times. It gives you a great framework for setting the process for coaching. You know, already from the start, you kind of agreeing on what could be a great outcome of the coaching session by putting up the goal, and then the reality part of it. As I mentioned, this issue about it's evoking self-awareness, and then you have the option part, which is really important because it can be very simple things that the coachee hadn't really talked about, and it in the end you're wrapping everything up, so it's kind of a nice package, you know, that you're putting the GROW model in. But also the W is also kind of, you know, how willing are we to move forward. And the great thing is that you can almost use it all the time, and then you can be a kind of an eclectic coach where you're using other models together with the GROW model. It's really flexible, and once you've used it a couple of times, you know, it's easy to exercise.
So basically, you're saying that the GROW model becomes like a way of thinking, a way of operating, so you can implement it in different kind of situations for yourself as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, also outside of coaching context.
Well, you know, the more I work with coaching, the more it becomes kind of part of my way of thinking and way of living.
Yeah. Let me go to the students. Do any of you have like a question now for Egil that you would like to have an answer on? Looking at your leadership positions in the future?
I have a question.
Sure. Go ahead, Egil.
You mentioned the difference between a leader and a manager, but is a manager the person that implements the plan and the leader develops the plan?
In the sense that talking about the strategy and the vision as the plan, which is, you know, very much what we are doing in corporate. We are setting the strategy, and if that is in the context of the plan, yes, I agree. And the manager is exercising it. I've been working with most of my people that are reporting to me. They are project managers. What we do is that I set the strategy together with my leadership team. We decide on what kind of projects that we're gonna go for. We approve the project, and then the manager is actually making the plan together with his team, and then he's taking the plan to its end. So it's coming back again to, you know, we are telling what we're going to achieve with the project and why we're going to do it, and the manager is then telling how they're going to do it.
Yeah.
Was that an answer to your question?
Yes, thank you.
Also another, just to give you another insight in the way that I think about the difference between a manager and a leader, and this I'm just quoting, so it's not my words, but one said that managers light a fire under people, the leaders light a fire in people.
Excellent. So it's really, they inspire, really. I think it's the first time I heard it from you as well, Egil. I love that. Anyone else has a question for Egil at this moment?
Yes. What is the downside of leading a big team, and how do you fix the problems between different kind of peoples and cultures?
First of all, if you go into a leadership position, don't expect it to be easy. It's really, really hard work, and it can be extremely lonely. And therefore, I believe that what the world really needs these days are great leaders, but along with that, great coaches, because the coaches can help the leaders of, not being all that by herself. When I realized that I'm not in control of everything, that was when I stepped up to be a leader. Because when you're a manager, you think that you're supposed to control everything, but you cannot control everything. And especially when you're working in a corporate organization, you will need to inspire people more than control people. I think if you really believe that you can control everything, you are really in a big trouble. But if you can inspire people and put some trust into your organization, I think that is the way out of it. And that's at least how I fix it when I get into challenges with parts of the organization that I cannot control, or people outside the organization, because we got a lot of contractors and vendors that we're working on that we cannot really control, but we can use our ability to lead in a way that they want to do whatever they can to make us happy. It's about being respectful. It's about treating people in a good way. And I think that is one of the reasons why I love to be a leader, is because I love to interact with people, and I love to, make results together with other people. So it's not about me, it's about the other guys.
No.
I don't know if that was a good answer to your question, or whether I answered your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Excellent.
But to me, leadership is really difficult. Management is kind of science. You can read your way through how to be a manager. I'm educated a project manager, and I have some skills within being project manager. Management is science. Leadership is art.
So everybody's going to do it differently. Yeah, and it's all going to be good as well. They all can be effective. So that's really good. Anyone else has a question for Egil at this point?
I do. What defines you from other leaders? What makes you different from others? What makes you you?
That is a really, really great question, and thank you for asking that question. I am an engineer, but I think a lot of people don't see me as an engineer, because most engineers are introvert. They are not very outspoken, and I never worked as an engineer. I always worked as a manager and leader. And I think because I'm working in Norway, and Norway kind of following the non-written rules about how to behave, and I'm just not behaving like the other guys. I'm just being myself, and I think that is what the biggest difference is. I'm just trying to be authentic and true to myself, and not always thinking about what the other are thinking. So I'm very outspoken, and I can sometimes get my head chopped off because I'm so probably too honest sometimes. Thank you for the question, Manix.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It's difficult to be honest, especially when you get into corporate. You have these kind of rules about how you're supposed to pretend. And even when you are, going to university like yourself, some things that you just don't say. But if you're honest to yourself in all walks of life, I think that is really important.
Excellent. Anyone else for a final question to Egil?
Yeah, I have one question left. We can safely say you made it, right? You're vice president, 5 billion. But what is the biggest struggle you still have with coaching and leadership? Like, what's the struggle you still face every day on that level of leadership?
I'm in a coaching group, and one of the girls, she said to me, "Yeah, but you made it. You're a vice president. It's just like you said now." But to me, that's not the case. I've just started. I'm on this journey, and like yourself. And I think the day that I think that I nailed it, and I'm, at the finishing line, then I'm totally over. So to me, it's really important that I continue my journey as a leader, as a coach. And I think the most difficult part very often is not to be complacent. When we are complacent, we kind of think that, yeah, I nailed it. And I probably, I mentioned that I kind of went into a 40 years crisis when I got there. And I think that was exactly what happened. I became complacent. Suddenly I couldn't really see what's actually the meaning of it all. What's the meaning of life? And I reflected a lot about that. And so I think, every day trying to be the best version of myself, that is challenging, but that is also what choosing me.
Excellent. I'm just looking at something here.
Yeah, it's great to be here. You got so many great questions. I could be here the entire evening.
Yeah, and I see what you're saying there. It's like, these are the questions I ask myself every day. How can I add value? And am I becoming better than yesterday? And actually, that's what I hear you saying as well, Egil. You keep exploring yourself and looking for how can I be a better version of myself? What can I improve for myself as well? So if you keep asking yourself these questions on a daily basis, there's always going to be a next level for everyone, right? Because as you say, like, we think, if we look at you like, wow, vice president, managing 5 billion, wow, that's really good. He made it. And you're thinking like, wow, you know what? It's great, but I'm just starting, right? This is just another level, and there's always a next level to consider.
So can I ask you a question?
Me?
Well, no, not you. Well, I can ask you as well, Deepak. That was yeah.
So, that would be fun for the students, yes.
No, but this is funny. So what's your ambitions, Deepak?
My ambition?
Yeah, apart from what you just said on the chart, what do you want to become when you are a grown up?
Yeah, my ambition is always to look for what's out there. I mean, what else is out there? I once heard this quote from a Czech president. Actually, it was a Czech poet first, and then he became the first Czech president, Václav Havel. And he said something like, walk with the people who are looking for the truth, but run away from the people who claim to have found it. I'm always looking for the truth. And I think if I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now, I would be a journalist, right? So my ambition is always to look for what else is out there so I can improve my life. And by improving my life, I can hopefully inspire other people to improve their life as well. But that's really inspiring me. It's not the money, it's not the status. It is, what can I do to improve myself even more so I can be an inspiration, not just for my kids, but for everybody else that I come in touch with.
And it's so much about mindset and how we are thinking about how we can contribute. So it's great to hear. But can I ask just another question, and then to the students?
Sure.
So what do you find to be the most challenging with regards to coaching and leadership?
Well, the coaching part of it, I think is hard because I don't have a lot of patience.
Yeah.
And the leadership side, yes, I think I don't really know a difficulty of that. Yes, I don't know.
You know, the patience part. My wife, she doesn't really understand how I can be a coach at all, because she don't think that I'm really that patient. So it's, it's something that I've been working on for many years. I can just tell it that it's actually possible to improve that skill. It is.
Anyone else would like to answer that question? Because I think this is a really good question. Actually, we should have started with that question, I think.
Yeah, Sebastian.
Well, I don't really know. I think it's really hard to be because leaders you usually look up to, right? And I think because we're still young, it's really hard to be already inspirational in some way. So it's, yeah, I don't know if I'm making any sense.
You're making a really great sense, and I think that is one of the things that a lot of people are thinking about a leader who is kind of having a title or a high position. But when I'm looking at, you know, young people, there's a lot of, you know, especially when you're looking into the social media, you know, there's a lot of influencers. And think about those guys as leaders, because they are having a great impact and influence on a lot of people. And when you're looking into, you know, wherever you are in school or sports, you got leaders around you. You don't really think about it, but they will always be leaders. And you have the power to lead other people, all of you. So, but it's just not because we're thinking about that as being leadership. We're just thinking about being leaders, something that, you know, I as a vice president have that, but it's much more than that.
Right. Thank you.
Right. And thanks for that as well, Egil. I think, you know, I think I mentioned to this class also that I use Tony Robbins as an example. Tony started doing what he is doing when he was 19 years old. So talking about becoming a leader at a very young age, I think he proved that. So yeah, so you can become a leader, and actually you're always a leader. Whenever you show up, you're a leader in some area. There's always some area where you're better than me, for example, right? There are things that you guys can do better than I can or than Egil can. So take credit for that also, that you are a real leader in that area. So thank you, Egil, for joining us and sharing your knowledge, your wisdom, and your time with us.
Yeah. I am the one who is really grateful, and thank you all for great questions and great answers. I really enjoyed it, and good luck with your education and your coaching leadership.
Excellent. Thank you, Egil. Let's give a warm applause to Egil again.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.